Oh, yeah, she can do it too. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here, and this is Karie. She is the associate executive director here. Welcome to all of you in-house, and welcome to all of you joining us online on Facebook or YouTube. So good to be with you all tonight. To remind you all, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. There's always one thing we don't do. Y'all can shout it out on a count of three. All four words. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. Karie, tell us some of the things we do.
Hello and welcome. If this is your first night here, we are glad that you're here. Stay after the service. We will have Kat, which I don't know if she's in here yet. She's a volunteer. She is going to help you get a welcome bag. It has some fresh roasted wagon coffee in there, a Connect card to get onto our mailing list so you can find out all of the things that we have going out through our community. It's a great way to stay connected, get plugged in, get all of the updates. And there's also some other free swag in there. And then we also, if you were on the mailing list, you'll know of these things coming up. I believe first is the job readiness. The job readiness is this coming Monday in the cafe. It's free of charge. It's from 3 to 5. It's put on by Jewish Family Services, and it's sponsored by Mile High. This month's topic is answering tough questions. So a lot of times resumes may have gaps in employment, whether that be for formerly incarcerated, if you had to go seek treatment, some of those difficult questions that people may not like to answer on a job interview. They'll help you kind of tell you the best way to answer them and how to address those to help you best get a job.
We don't have any of that in this community.
Some of us do, Ryan.
Maybe a couple
but we don't
of
do,
us
yeah.
do.
But this is a great way to learn about how to be honest, how to address that, and actually move forward in it.
Very important stuff.
We also have, starting on Monday, if you guys have ever been on to the holistic meeting that's on Tuesday nights. Shimmy was our guest storyteller a couple of months ago. He is in all pathways, all holistic, mind, body, spirit, all of the things. He is putting on a free Meditation Made Simple online 2-part series. It starts Monday. There is no cost to this, but you do need to register if you were on our mailing list, or you could take a picture and screenshot that little QR code to get signed up, or we'll post it this week on our social as well.
And I talked to Shimmy about Emily Kessler, who's actually the meditationist. Meditationist, is that right?
It sounds official.
The meditation leader. And he just has all kinds of great things to say about her. So this may be one you want to tune into.
Yeah, and if you read the flyer, it says that by the end of this 2-part series that you'll have a pretty good grip on what a meditation practice would look like and how to sustain it. We also have, speaking of the mind, body, spirit, another Grounded Warrior retreat coming on October 20th. It's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is, if the early bird pricing before October 6th is $68. Maggie does our yoga here on Monday nights as well as Saturday mornings. This one has different practitioners. All you need to do is Venmo her and then make sure you include your name and your phone number so she can register you and get all of the information. But it's a wonderful way to, in the change of seasons, sometimes it gets a little stirry of the emotions. This is a great way to kind of simmer that all down. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, thank you, Karie. Lots of good stuff. Hey, and I want to throw out, if you are looking for volunteer opportunities, the tech team in the back who runs everything you see happening on a Saturday night and other events too throughout the week. If you're looking to volunteer, the tech team is needing some help, some volunteer help. So you can see Bobby in the back. Bobby, raise your hand, or Matthew in the back. Talk to one of those fellas. They will hook you up if you're the techie type person. Sound good? Okay, bueno. All right, y'all, the way we get started here at Free on a Saturday night is with celebrations. We lift up the good. We start with the good. We celebrate together. Something profound happens when we do this thing together. God joins with us in the celebrations, and we get to do this, I don't know, the joy, the deep joy stuff together. So we take 3 minutes for this. If you're online on YouTube or Facebook, just drop in your celebrations there. We'll celebrate with you there. If you're in-house, Katie has a mic and Colby has a mic. And Katie will be on this side, Colby will be on this side. Just raise up your hand and give us the good news. We'll take 3 minutes for this. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or birthday or whatever the new thing is in your life for recovery. We celebrate it all here. Let's take 3.
Hi, I'm Sonia, and I am just like super, super excited that my friend Bree is in town and made it tonight.
Bree, welcome. We're glad you're here. Yeah, we'll celebrate that.
I'm Erin, and I'm celebrating God helped me get into a much better living situation, and I got a job.
Way to go, Erin. A job and a living situation. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Danny, and tomorrow I will be celebrating 30 days.
30 days, Danny. Way to go, dude. Big stuff. All the way in the back there and all the way in the front here. Right here. Yep.
Hi, my name is Kat. I'm celebrating getting a new apartment, moving in with another sober sister, and I had 90 days today.
All right, way to go, Kat. It's all coming together. Congratulations.
My name is Jane, and today I'm celebrating 11 days of sobriety.
All right, Jane, glad you're here. Congratulations. Yeah.
I'm Alex, and on the 5th of September, I didn't get to celebrate with you guys, but I did celebrate 7 years of continuous sobriety. Thanks
Way to go,
this
Alex.
community.
7 years. Congratulations. Was that a hand or was that a wave? That was waving. Okay. Anyone else celebrating? Yeah.
I have a friend who, my name's Maddie. I have a friend who last week was really struggling in a relapse and, had hurt herself some way in like a blackout, and she's back on the wagon. She's been sober a few days and sounding really motivated, so I'm proud of her.
Yeah, we'll celebrate that. Celebrating a friend. Good stuff, Maddie. You got 30 seconds left if anyone wants it. Nothing too big or too small. Going once. Going twice. Okay, we got one more. Let's do one more.
I'm from Nebraska, and nobody ever goes to Nebraska. But the big thing in Nebraska are the Cornhuskers, the football team, and they won big today.
All right, well, we can celebrate that. My wife is from Nebraska, and I'm sure his family is celebrating in Nebraska. And the Buffs won today, I'm told, from the back. Bree, come on up here. Bree's in town all the way from Southern California. Can I have one of those mics? And she is like a longtime member of this community, but you did leave us, which we've already done the inner work and forgiven you for. But you're back.
Am I on your 4th step?
I'm past that. You were on it, yes.
Good.
It's good to have you back.
I'm so happy to be here.
You want to celebrate the
I'd love
online
to.
folks? You take
Yes.
the first one, I'll take the next one.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
Look, we're matching.
I know. Black's always a good color.
Always. This is from Angelica. I want to celebrate my husband who is 7 weeks sober. So proud of him.
All right,
That's
Angelica.
amazing.
We're proud of him, too. Brian says, I'm celebrating 9 months clean, and I'm healing well from my double hip replacement and had a great day with my oldest son. Brian, we're celebrating that with you, brother. Thanks for sharing.
Mark says, celebrating 11 months of sobriety on 12th of September.
All right, Mark, way to go, buddy. Glad you're joining us tonight. Kayla's here, well, not here tonight, but online, and she says, I'm grateful that on Wednesday I celebrated 5 months sober, and today I'm 156 days sober. Way to go, Kayla.
Amazing.
Keep on going.
Christy would like to share, would like to celebrate my grandson Milo. We just attended his May the 4s Be With You party.
Oh,
Such
my
a great
goodness.
success and an amazing little man.
Yeah, we'll celebrate that with you, Christy. Happy birthday to him. Leslie says, Leslie and Kevin, 1 month of sobriety. Shout out to Colby, best roommate ever. Is that you, dude? This Colby? Yeah, he's sitting in the front row here. We'll celebrate that.
Congrats, congrats. Buddy says, celebrating my wife, Courtney. She is starting her own business and may have gotten her first client. We are proud of her.
All right, go Courtney. Yeah, we'll celebrate it. Nisha says, I'm Nisha and I'm 70 days sober from alcohol and drugs. Happy 70 days. We're celebrating with you.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me up here, Bree. It's so good to have you back in town. Yes, your home. It is your home. It's our home together. That's right. All right, y'all. Hey, if you haven't been with us in a minute, well, we're in this this series called Dare, Confronting Controversies of Recovery. We've had some, I don't know, can I say fun topics? You can breathe a little easier this week. Last week I had to brace you because we talked about cannabis. Can I use cannabis and still be in recovery? And a very lively conversation around that. We're not talking about that tonight, though, but I think it's a subject that's, I don't know, just as dicey for so many of us, and that is boundaries. Boundaries or betrayal. Take a look.
I get angry just thinking about it makes me mad. Little kids doing drugs, it turns my stomach.
That's why I would never, ever take illegal drugs. You know, I've seen some people who smoke marijuana, and they seem to lose pride in their appearance.
Actually, Michael, the fact is that 1 in 18 high school seniors smokes marijuana daily. And then there are the occasional users which account
Get
for...
this through your CPU. They don't care about statistics.
You know, you're right. I've got it. Just tell them illegal drugs are bad, so don't mess with them.
Illegal drugs are bad news. Don't mess with them.
Well, let's talk about codependency for just a moment, shall we? I mean, because, well, let's just be honest. Those people, codependent people, they are so fun to talk about, aren't they? Oh, but let's keep being honest, because we all have a bit of codependency in us, don't we? Yeah, see, in codependency, it has everything to do with you and your boundaries. And here's the thing about boundaries. Do you ever notice that when you start to set boundaries in your life with other people, it can so often initially feel like betrayal? But before we get there, what's a codependent person? If you haven't read Melody Beattie's book, she has this is like a classic in the field. It's a must read. She wrote a book called Codependent No More. She says that a codependent person is one who has let another person's behavior affect him or her and who is obsessed with controlling that person's behavior. So think about, for you, where has codependency shown up in your life? Where have you become the codependent person? We all have some of it, some of us more than others. I learned the art of codependency at an early age. By the age of 16, my heart was in so much heartache, deep heartache, that I clung to the idea of trying to control the other person. If you are with us tonight, or maybe you're watching tonight and you are what we call the loved one of an addict, maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been there. My brother's drug and alcohol use started around the age of 13. I was 13. He was about 15 or 16. I have very poignant memories of the chaos that came into the home because of his addiction. I remember one night we left. It was an overnight trip, and my brother stayed behind in the house, and he decided he was going to throw a party that night. And apparently the party got a little out of hand because what happened was in the middle of the night, two of those party goers, they came back to the house and they robbed our home of all of the valuables. I remember going into my room the next morning and I discovered the dreadful fact that all of my CDs were gone, including my Nirvana CD. Big deal. If you don't know what CDs are, well, they're compact discs for you youngins out there. It's how we used to listen to music back in the 90s. All the CDs were gone. I remember all the late night phone calls. And they were from the Camden County Police Department saying, we've got him again. It was my brother. I remember seeing Mom in fear and the fear that was in our family and wondering if anything would ever change. I remember one day walking out of the 8th grade, the bell had just rung and I had my backpack on and I was walking through the parking lot to the bus and I got on the bus and I'm looking out at the high school parking lot and I see about a dozen cop cars and they got the blues and reds going. And I sit down and I say, what in the heck is happening? And the guy next to me, a friend next to me, he says, oh, dude, you didn't hear? Your brother got popped for dealing. And this time he had more drugs, and the consequences were more severe. You see, by the age of 16, I was angry. I was sad, man. I just wanted my big brother back. And listen, y'all, I thought I had the perfect solution. I thought I could manage all the chaos through control. I thought I could manipulate the situation to get it to go the way I wanted it to go. So here's what I did. Well, that night he was away. He was at a party. And at the time, I was a leader in a church youth group. I call up a youth group buddy, and he came over. And I had the bright idea that we're going to do a spiritual cleansing on his bedroom. Yeah. So we went into his bedroom. Anything that resembled drugs or alcohol, anything that resembled addiction or anything unholy in my eyes, well, we took those belongings and placed them into a bin. His 9 Inch Nails t-shirts, his Pantera CDs. Any Pantera fans out there? Yep, they made it into the bin. Cigarette boxes made it into the bin. Booze bottles, anything that resembled a life of drugs and alcohol, we threw into the bin. Then we carried this bin up the stairs, out the front door, up the driveway, and we placed this bin in the middle of the street where we proceeded to pour gasoline into the bin. And then we lit his belongings on fire. And I had a righteous anger that was built on this bedrock of pain. Yeah, I thought it would work. The problem is, well, he was my bigger, older brother, and he got home early the next morning. He comes storming into my room, and he says, dude, where's my stuff? And I pop out of bed with that righteous anger, and I said, your stuff is in the street, but it's not stuff anymore. It's ashes because we burned it. And I proceeded to take quite a beating that morning. And see, I tell you, I thought it would work. It didn't work. And at the age of 16, I didn't know about the work of boundaries and how to do the inner work. I didn't know how to do that. And the most baffling part of the story, like the irony in the story, is when he died a couple of years later because of his addiction. Well, I picked up right where he left off. Still a baffling thing in my story today. You see, codependency, it's all those moments where you are filled with such deep heartache that you are trying to control everything and everyone but yourself because you do not know how. And even if you knew how, you're still not convinced it would really work. Some of you might have people in your life and their negative behavior affects you and your well-being. And you've tried time and time again the method of control, and you found it didn't work. And maybe you're here tonight, and in the back of your mind, you're saying, man, it's really time for me to get serious about creating some boundaries. But further in the back of your mind, there's this nagging voice that says, man, if I do that, if I create that boundary, I'll be betraying them. You see, boundaries or betrayal, You know, in the therapy world, there's an old fable about a rabbit and a snake. Some of y'all know my weird obsession with snakes. I actually hate snakes. They terrify me, and yet I can't stop scrolling through YouTube at night watching venomous snake videos. It's a crazy, weird obsession. Don't tell anyone. Back to the rabbit and the snake. The snake comes to the rabbit's door and says, "Please, rabbit, let me in tonight. It's cold tonight, and I just need a warm place to stay." And the rabbit looks at the snake and says to the door, "Are you crazy? I'm not letting you in. Last time I let you in, you ate my brother. You ate my mom. You ate one of my babies. I'm not letting you in again. I know how this thing goes." And the snake says, No, rabbit. I promise you, I'll just come in and curl up in the corner, and I'm different now. Things have changed. That was then, this is now. And the rabbit says, no, Mr. Snake, I'm not letting you in. And the snake says, no, I swear I am going to come in peace, and in the morning I will leave in peace. And the rabbit gives in. Because, of course, if I don't open the door, well, it's an act of betrayal. And I'm supposed to love. And if I don't open the door, well, that's not an act of love. So the rabbit opens the door. Why? Because the snake needs me. So the snake comes in, thanks the rabbit, curls up in a corner and falls asleep. And the rabbit falls asleep. And early that morning, the rabbit wakes up. The problem is the snake is wrapping himself around the rabbit's body. And the rabbit begins to scream, "Wait a minute. You promised you weren't going to do it this time. You said you were different. You said you were changed." And the rabbit responds, "Yes, I did. But at the end of the day, I'm still just a snake." You see, how can we create boundaries and see the boundary not as an act of betrayal, but rather as an act of love? And I am convinced that boundaries have the power to set you free of these three things: judgment, shame, and overwhelm. You know, there's a very interesting line that Jesus drops in Matthew's gospel. If you're a bit fuzzy on Matthew's gospel, Matthew chapters 5, 6, and 7, it's what's called the Sermon on the Mount. If you're new to Scripture, new to the Bible, I highly recommend starting there. It's a sermon. You can read it in about 18 minutes. It's the bread and butter of Jesus' teaching. The whole thing is about living with less worry, less anxiety, and you being a non-anxious presence in the world. Right in the middle of the sermon, he drops this very interesting line. Check it out. Chapter 7, verse 1. Jesus says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged." Well, that's interesting. What's he mean? Here's what's interesting. The word judge in the Greek, because keep in mind, New Testament is written in Greek. We have translations. The word for judge is this word krino. And there's actually three different meanings for krino. One of those meanings is the thing that happens when you lower another person in order to raise yourself. It's self-righteousness at the expense of others. Hold on to that. Jesus keeps going. Very next verse. Jesus says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" A plank is like a log, right? "How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there was a plank in your own eye?" Jesus gets feisty. "You hypocrite. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." What's Jesus doing here? He's using this real big, over-the-top language to make a point. Because, see, sometimes what happens is we try to control others. Here, let me get the speck out of your eye, even though there's a log coming out of my eye. We try to control others as a way of avoiding our own issues, our own pain. As long as you can focus on them, then you don't have to do the difficult work with yourself. As long as you can judge them, then you can feel better about you. Y'all, it's why when I was in active addiction, like at the height of my alcoholism, I would get hammered drunk, and then at night I would turn on a TV to turn to A&E and watch the show Intervention. Anyone seen Intervention? Yeah, I know you have. Why would I do that? Because I could watch this mess playing out before me. And I could judge it, and I could say, oh my goodness, look at you. You are such a hot mess. And then there's me, and I'm not nearly as bad as you. And all of these methods that we try, they all give us this sense of control in our lives. And see, maybe the first boundary you need to make is with yourself, and it's a boundary that says, you know what? I am going to stop trying to control other people, because when I do that, I get pulled into the judgment zone. And when I get there, I behave in really crazy and absurd ways. You see, can you let go of them and place them into God's hands? Can you let go of that person and place them into the care and love of God? Because boundaries have the power of setting you free from judgment. And y'all, don't miss this next line. This is like the best line in Scripture. This is one of my favorite scriptures. And I love reading it with a group of people, because there's always the people that are like, what is he talking about? This is so bizarre. Jesus says this: do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, we've talked about this one here, you remember it? If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. What is Jesus talking about? Why is he talking about sacred and dogs and throwing your pearls to pigs? Well, they're not images we use today, is it? So let's translate it into modern day vernacular, because the verse very well could read just like this: you are a rabbit. Close the dang door. Stop opening your sacred space to snakes. You know how they are. You've seen what happens. If you open that door, that snake is going to eat you, and the kicker is, in the process, you are going to act surprised, but don't play stupid. I don't know if Jesus would say that last part, but it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? We act surprised when it happens again. Some of you have people in your life that they just have this kind of supernatural ability to come along and push all your buttons. And they keep pushing those same buttons, and they keep coming back, and it's been years. Maybe for you that is family members or colleagues or coworkers or even friends, or maybe it's people in your life that are in your life but you're not necessarily close with them. Or maybe you have someone in your life that you love, and they're battling addiction, and they keep coming back, and they keep saying, please, just let me in one more time. It's going to be different this time. I'm not who I used to be. I've changed. It's going to be different, and you will have to get clear with your boundaries and set boundaries. And listen, y'all, if you're hearing me talk about this tonight, and you're like, man, he's just making it look easy. This is the hardest work you will do. This is nothing that I've got nailed in my life, and I'm just dropping some wisdom. This is the stuff I still struggle with. Sober 11 and a half years, still struggle with boundaries. It's hard work. It's a lifetime of work. You will have to set boundaries. A question that I have to ask myself on a regular basis is this question: how long can I be around that person or those people, that behavior, that toxic relationship? How long can I be around it without giving up my true self? Because if I give up my true self, then I become the one who is behaving poorly. How long can I be around them without losing my true self? And y'all keep in mind, if you start creating boundaries, there will always be those who kick and scream and act like 2-year-olds because they're not used to being told no, and you're telling them no. It's like the kid in the candy aisle, and you're saying, no, son, you cannot have that candy bar, and he lays on the ground in King Soopers. I have no experience in this, by the way. Lays on the ground and kicks and screams because he wants his candy, and he's being told no. You'll always have those people, and I say this to say, be very careful with this one. You will have to stay rooted, because some of those people might say to you things like this: well, you're shaming me. And don't you remember? We don't do shame, and you're shaming me. Don't buy it. It's absolute nonsense. They have equated we don't do shame with we don't do boundaries nonsense. They have created a loophole in we don't do shame to avoid personal responsibility nonsense. They want to hide their poor behavior under the guise of don't you dare bring up my behavior, because if you mention my behavior, you're shaming me. Nonsense. You're not doing shame. You're doing boundaries. You're not going to that person and saying, hey, listen, you are such a terrible person. You're such an awful person, and I'll show you. I'll teach you a lesson. Those are old ways. That is shame and control. We don't do that. We have a new way. What are you doing? You're doing boundaries. You're saying, I have to protect my well-being and perhaps the well-being of others in the rabbit's household, and I have to keep this door closed right now because your behavior isn't welcome. And some of you say, man, I have this guilt inside because, man, I should have done it sooner. Why didn't I do it sooner? Well, you didn't do it sooner because, let's start here, you're a good person. Like, you have a good heart. You don't want to hurt people. You told yourself you thought they'd change. If you could just give them another chance, they'll change. And you love them, and you thought you could open a door this time and let them in, and they wouldn't eat you this time. And now you're learning how to set boundaries, and you're actually sticking to them. And listen, y'all, I know you feel bad. I know you feel mean when you set the boundary. And you can't shake that feeling of, man, am I betraying them? Talk to any parent in this community who's had to ask a son or daughter to leave because of their addiction. They'll tell you the same story. They felt mean. It was hard. It felt like they were rejecting them. It felt like betrayal. And yet there's another story that's possible. See, what if it's actually not an act of betrayal, but it's the greatest act of love you can do for you and for them? Do you know I have a dear friend who's been clean and sober now for over 12 years, and he tells a story about how in active addiction, he was in and out of jail. In and out of jail, and it was always the same story. He would create chaos, get arrested, thrown into jail, and then his mom would come along with the cash, bail him out of jail, and then give him a place to live. And then it would happen again, this vicious cycle that just kept happening. And you ask him, dude, you've been clean and sober for 12 years now. What changed? And he says, here's what changed. That last time I was in jail, Mom didn't come bail me out. She told me I was going to sit there. And then, he says, get this, and then when I actually got out of jail, she said I couldn't come home until I had at least 1 year clean and sober. He finally got it. You see, the truth is, you are not a doormat. And I know sometimes we want to walk around and say, well, I'm just a godly person, and this is my plot in life, and I just kind of take it. I'm a doormat. No, you're not a doormat. Stop playing that game. You're not a doormat. It's not good for you or for them, and boundaries have the power to set you free of shame. I mean, do you see how the whole thing revolves around you knowing who you are? Because you are a very complex being with complex emotions, living amidst very complex relationships. And do you know who you are, and can you rest in that? I love how the psalmist, if you're fuzzy on the Psalms, are right in the middle of the Bible. It's the Old Testament. It's some of the most beautiful, honest, and refreshing prayers we could ever read. And the psalmist in Psalm 139, I love how he puts it in a prayer of gratitude. He's like in this dark moment in his life. You get the sense that he's surrounded by these really trying relationships, and he's trying to make peace with his life. And he stops right in the middle of this prayer, and he prays this line. Check it out. Thank you, God, for making me so wonderfully complex. Isn't it beautiful? He's owning it. Your works are wonderful. And I know that full well. What's he saying? God, I know you. God, I trust you with this, with me. And God, I thank you for all of it. And he goes on. I wish we could read the whole Psalm 139. It's a beautiful prayer. He goes on. And he's in this dark time, and he's saying, God, I'm getting ready to make some big decisions here. I may even have to create some boundaries here, but I need your help with the inner work. I need your help with checking my motives. It's the only way I'm going to make it through this thing and keep my peace and serenity. Some of y'all thought the 12 steps came up with the fourth step, like taking inventory. No. It's a very ancient spiritual practice. Check out how he ends his prayer in Psalm 139. He ends it this way. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. How many of you get anxiety with boundaries? Yeah, me too. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Like, not in the way that destroys and not in a way that's going to fizzle out, but in a way that has some longevity to it. Y'all, I would remind you, when you are setting boundaries in your life, remember that you are a complex being with complex emotions, living amidst very complex relationships. Invite God into that process of taking your inventory. Search me, God. Let me get honest. Lead me, God, to a way that's everlasting. And I'll close with this. Has anyone read the book Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and John Townsend? Another classic in the field. Highly recommend. If you're into boundaries, you've got to start with this one. In it, they say these words: any confusion of responsibility and ownership in our lives is a problem of boundaries. Just as homeowners set physical property lines around their land, we need to set mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual boundaries for our lives to help us distinguish what is our responsibility and what isn't. And all those trying and messy relationships do the work in figuring out who you are, what's yours to carry and what isn't yours to carry. And if it's not yours to carry, drop it off. Drop it off. That's creating boundaries. You can't carry it all anyway. You weren't created for that. It's too heavy. And then what do? Yeah, you relax and take it easy, and you go in peace. Because, see, boundaries have the power to set you free of the overwhelm. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hear a song. Man, I love this song. I heard it on the way home from playing pickleball with Tammy last night at like 9 o'clock. And it's a new one out by MGK. I don't know if we've ever played a song here by MGK, Machine Gun Kelly, teamed up with Jelly Roll by the one to create this beauty. It is called, Karie, what's the name of this song? It's so good I can't remember the name of it. Oh, yes, Lonely Road. And man, it just hit me last night. I had it in my notes because I heard it 2 weeks ago, but it hit me again last night, and I said, yeah, we need to have a moment and reflect. So during this song, I would invite you to reflect. What do boundaries look like in your life? Where do you need to get better boundaries in your life? Where do you need to protect your well-being and perhaps even the well-being of others with the boundaries that you create? Take a moment and reflect. Here's Lonely Road.
Is that working now? There we go. Hi, welcome back. If you're new with us, I'd like to let you know that every week we have a guest storyteller come and join us in the living room. Usually we invite a community member who has been here with us on a Saturday, who kind of knows what we do here and is used to our format. What I love so much about Free is it offers so much that you don't even have to step into a Saturday night service. So whether you're watching online, whether you're in the cafe and you just only come for coffee, or you just come for 12-step meetings and you never come in for a Saturday, there's something for everyone here. I met our guest storyteller through a different meeting on Thursday nights, and we just started talking, and I had asked him, I'm like, would you be willing to join us here on a Saturday night for the first time and tell us what what you do and why it's so important. So I thought it was so fascinating that we could open this space up for somebody who isn't used to our Saturday format. So if you wouldn't mind, this guest storyteller did do the 5 o'clock service, but it's not typically used to our community here. So I would ask for some extra special grace, love, and compassion. And please welcome our guest storyteller up. His name is Timothy DeWeese. Timothy, would you please come up? Welcome back. How you doing?
Thank you. Great.
All right. So I wanted to get started. Thanks again for joining us. I would like to start with your recovery story. So you are an addict in recovery, and then we're going to transition into what you do today. But can you kind of tell us your backstory of why your work matters so much to what you do today?
Yeah, of course. Thank you all for letting me be here this evening, and thank you all for being here. So my story started out at a young age with my addiction. I grew up over on the western slope of Colorado and have pretty much lived in the whole state of Colorado during my entire life. It started off as fun when I was younger, and it started off as a way of coping with life because I found this magical substance that was in my dad's liquor cabinet that kind of took away the pain that I was feeling, and I didn't have to feel any of that I didn't want to feel. And it was fun again until it became not fun. And then it became a way of life. And then it became very consequential as well later on in life. So enough about the war stories, right? What I ended up doing was that for 30 years of my life and destroying not only my life, but everyone else's life that was in the path, and they didn't ask for it. I just kind of drug them along with it without their permission. Speaking of boundaries, I invaded their personal space and took them for a ride as well. After 30 years, I got to the end of my rope, and I finally went to treatment, and I went to a 2-year treatment program. It's called the Stout Street Foundation. It's a 2-year therapeutic community and behavioral modification program. It's a peer-run program. So,
and you started learning boundaries there because in there you had to have, there were certain requirements, right? There was a regimen you had to start. You were saying you had to like wake up at a certain time and like follow boundaries.
I had to follow their boundaries if I wanted to stay. Now, I could have left at any point in time that I wanted to. However, I had nowhere else to go. So, but yeah, we had to be up and ready to go 5:45 in the morning. We couldn't just go up and downstairs. It was in the program is located off of I-70 in Quebec. It used to be the old Econo Lodge back when Stapleton Airport was still up and running, an old biker motel. So you literally lived in this hotel for 18 months with 100 other plus people, men and women. You could only eat at certain times. You were allowed to only be in your room at certain times, and then pretty much every day of the week you had classes that you had to go to, and then you also had consequences for breaking the rules, just like we do in life. A lot of those times, the consequences involve sitting on a bench for quite a long period of time to sit there and reflect about what you had done wrong. But when I first got to that program, I had no boundaries at all. I was a doormat. I would let anybody walk all over me, and running around screaming and yelling like a little, you know what, because I wasn't getting treated correctly. Turns out that that was my whole life, that I'd done that, because I never knew how to cope with any of that, and I always felt that I was mistreated.
And then after Stout Street, so the 2-year program, when you got out, because they are not 12-step required, but you found some relief in the rooms of 12-step recovery after, continued your sobriety and recovery journey, and then you decided to switch angles slightly because you realized that you're still surrounded by a bunch of alcoholics and you realized that you could help them. So how did your journey change from your own recovery and then to start changing it for the loved ones?
So when I got out to the sober living part of the program at 18 months, I knew that I had to do something. I had to change course, which included making drastic changes in my lifestyle. One was not going back to the career that I had already had for 25 years. It was not conducive to my recovery period, nor my sobriety. Once I started developing that skill, I developed a mad passion for what recovery gave me and my purpose in life, that I truly felt like I get goosebumps when I talk about it, that I can help somebody else by giving them my hope, strength, and courage of what I've been able to do. And hopefully, I like to say it a lot of times, stop the statistics, giving people a different perspective on what this really is. I got this cool hat Saturday. It's called Lift the Label, right? It's not such a bad thing. We're not bad people. We make bad choices. Then I was able to, I was asked one day by a lady, a coworker, and she asked me what my definition of love was. And I was like, that's a pretty heavy 4-letter word. Could you describe that for me, please? Because I had forgot did I ever really learn what it was? And so she explained it to me, and she explained how she does this class. It's called C.R.A.F.T, which stands for Community Reinforcement and Family Training. And it helps the loved ones of the addict get their life back.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because it's also a free program like other 12-step programs. It differs in the length, because it's a solid 10-week course. Mm-hmm. And can you tell us some of the topics that you help the loved ones with, specifically teaching them how to be most effective with dealing with addiction?
Yeah. So the 3 main goals behind C.R.A.F.T is to stop harmful use, try to get our loved one into treatment, and most importantly, take care of yourself. Do some self-care, right? The first part, it is 10 weeks. The first class talks about what is it? What is addiction? What I like about that is it gives me a better insight as to what it really is. And then the people that are in my groups that aren't the addicts, that have the loved ones, they're like, why do you do what you do? Well, I can give them a little bit of insight because I was that person for such a long time, but we also start by watching some short videos. Dr. Kevin McCauley is one who talks about pleasure unwoven, and it goes into a little bit of the scientific workings of the brain and the dopamine effects that drugs and alcohol have on our bodies, or gambling or shopping or eating. I mean, Amazon, right? Who doesn't buy stuff on Amazon and get a thrill because you got a package showing up? You're like, ooh, yay, excited, right? I got something in my door. Super
I feel bad because
cool.
I just in the chat just put 2 books on Amazon, so I'm sorry.
So, and then we go into talking a little bit more about how we can identify when our loved person is using. How can we take away things for negative behaviors? Like when they're using, like don't make them cookies, don't invite them into your house, don't let them sleep on your couch. Tough love kind of stuff, right? And then it's obviously we talk about self-care, and then there's always this icky subject that is coming up here next week that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to use this terminology from a very good friend of mine that's in this room that brought this word to my attention instead of the word relapse. It's icky. Well, I like this. It's return to use. Okay? Relapse is just such an icky word. It just sounds so gross. Like they're terrible people, because no, they're not. Okay? It happens. But we also have to talk about the hard topics, right? It's a fact. It's going to happen. But in the back of our mind, we don't want it to happen. We want a one and done kind of thing with our family members. So it helps educate the person of the loved one of the addict on how they can better maintain and basically get their life back, because they have sucked us into their lives. I have a cousin who's like my sister out there. She's got 3rd stage Crohn's disease, and I have no idea if she's alive or dead right now because she went back to Colfax. And she, last I heard, didn't like me very much because I wouldn't drop everything at the drop of a hat to come help her empty her apartment out. Turns out she was using the day she asked me. So I have a lot of very good friends that have gone back to Stout Street again because they just, couldn't get it right? And so it hurts. It hurts.
To wrap us out tonight, in the last final question, could you, for the loved one who's still out there and they don't yet have their community, they're watching us online, or they're going to be the first ones out of here tonight and they're not going to stick around and talk to anybody, and we know here at Free that community is what makes or breaks recovery. Clearly C.R.A.F.T does as well, because it's the first word in what C.R.A.F.T stands for. Can you leave us with a little bit of hope for that person who's struggling to find their community and they're struggling with that battle? Is this a boundary or is this a betrayal? Where can they start to find that community to help them figure out and feel supported?
I would say probably the most important thing is that we can't do this by ourselves. No matter what aspect of life you're looking at, you cannot do this by yourself. Finding community has been proven through the dawn of, through mankind, that is the way that we make it through life's trials and tribulations, right? If we can put as much energy as into whatever we're trying to deflect upon into ourselves and looking at ourselves to set those own internal boundaries, by doing that, you're not betraying anybody, especially yourself. Because without setting our own boundaries with ourselves, we're betraying ourselves. And how can we be of any good or any service to anybody else if we can't be good to ourselves? So find a community. Don't give up. There's always another alternative. There's always another way. And forgive me for this, but in my case with my addiction, there's a better way to live life without getting fucked up. Right? And we can do this all together, whether it be C.R.A.F.T, whether it be 12-step, whether it be Dharma, whether it be any aspect of life, however you look at it, right? We can always find a way. Find your group, try things out, get a different perspective, have an open mind to things, and just find what works for you. There's going to be something that works for everybody. It may not be the same as what mine is. It may not be the same as Carrie's or Bree's or Ryan's, but there's a way. And you have to find it. And you can't find it sitting idly by waiting for it to come to you. You have to go out and seek it.
Thank you for that. And I know in the chat tonight, too, we're going to put the link to connect with C.R.A.F.T. Are you going to stick around after to answer some questions?
Yeah, of course.
And I love that you brought up the difference between return to use and relapse. Next week, we're going to have another controversial topic, is addict to dirty word. So we're going to start addressing some of this, why language matters. So stay tuned for next week. It's going to be another good one. But thank you so much, Timothy. Can you guys please help us thank Timothy for joining us tonight?
C.R.A.F.T group here at Free on Thursday nights at
6 to 7.
6 to 7:30
In the daycare.
Oh, so you need a whole hour and a half for this stuff.
Yeah, and it usually goes a couple hours because I give everybody an opportunity to talk. It's their support group for them, right? Just like any other 12-step meeting, it's a support group for them too.
Yep.
It's not for me just to dictate stuff.
So if you're a loved one or if you're struggling with boundaries, go to C.R.A.F.T group Thursday nights, 6 o'clock.
Be there.
Thank you, Tim. Good to have you here, brother. Yeah. And as Karie mentioned, next week, the topic is addict, a dirty word. Jennifer Place from the Colorado Consortium will be joining us. And I said, help us understand the importance of language. And anyway, it's going to be a great conversation. I can't wait. Hope you join us. Hey, the way we close out a Saturday night here at Free is very similar to how we begin. We begin with what we call celebrations. We close with what we call heartaches. Maybe you've been carrying a burden this week, and you're carrying it alone, and you find out somewhere along the way you really suck at carrying it alone, and you find out it's why you have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So we take 3 minutes for this. Again, if you're online, you can drop your heartache in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments. We'll heartache with you there. For those of you in person here in-house, you can just raise up your hand. Who has the mics? Colby and Bill have mics. All right, they'll get you a mic. Just raise up your hand. If you need some prayers, some encouragement, some uplifting, some good vibes, that's what this time is for. Let's take 3 minutes. All the way in the back. Well, not all the way in the back, but mostly towards the back.
Yeah, my name is Cy. I just want to send some prayers to the East Coast. My girlfriend just moved to South Carolina. I have a sister that lives in Charlotte, and family in Florida, and the storms and the weather that they're experiencing out there. There's road closures and power out everywhere, parts of the country that's underwater. So just some prayers for all those that are being affected by the storms on the East Coast.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning them, Simon. And yeah, all over Florida, up in Georgia, and the Carolinas, and Tennessee. And prayers for all of you if you're tuning in from one of those states. Hold me in prayer.
Yeah, my name is Bob. Yeah, my brother's been running and gunning Big Brother, and kind of bad, but he got into a big DUI in an accident, but we got him into a rehab, so he just checked himself in today. So it's, you never know if it'll work. It's not in our hands, but hopefully it works out for him. So thoughts and prayers. Thanks.
Yeah, prayers for your brother. Thanks for mentioning him. Colby, your side's like boring over here, you know? Y'all gotta get some trouble in your life.
Hi, my name's Robin, and I'm just asking prayer for God's divine guidance in several aspects of my life.
Yeah. Lifting you up, Robin. Prayers for you.
I just want to give some prayers for the girl I love, Mia. She's been really struggling, like, on the streets and, with addiction. So, just praying for Mia.
Yeah. Prayers for her, man, and for you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Bill and Colby. Colby, you want to join me up here, dude? To read some online heartaches? Dude, all I want you to do is like preach a 20-minute message.
I got you, bro.
I know, you probably would, actually. Here's why I invite Colby up here. Colby has been, I don't know, you've been here for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row now. And you're digging it, and you're like an important member of this community.
Yeah, I love
and
it
it's
here.
so good to have you here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you got a new hat, dude. It looks dope on you.
Yeah, I got it from my friend Ryan, dude. He sells them, if you want to get one.
Right outside. All right, brother. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Here's how we do it, because we have people tuning in online, and they'll have some heartaches. So you want to read the first one, and I'll take the second one, then we go back and forth.
All right.
All right. You go first.
Okay. All right, Jessica Berry. Loved one of an addict. Lost everything trying to help him. Need prayers for rebuilding my life and the destruction he caused.
Yeah. Prayers for you, Jessica. I'm glad you're with us tonight. Lifting you up. Stephen says, group of grandparents raising grandchildren. Please pray for their unique challenges. Yeah, I can imagine all the challenges in that. Thank you for lifting them up, Stephen. Prayers for them. Glad you're with us tonight. And we only had 2, so you got 1 and I got 1. I'm glad you're here, buddy. Yeah, glad you're part of this community. How long you been sober?
Well, off drugs for a while, but off the alcohol, I think I'm on 55 days today, no drinking.
55 days off alcohol. Way to go, Cole. We're glad you're here, dude. Yeah. All right, well, listen, y'all, if you have been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction and creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection, well, I hope you know we rely upon your generosity. We encourage generosity here. I know for many of you, you didn't used to give to anything, and unless it had to do with you getting the next drink or the next drug. And now in recovery, you've made giving a spiritual practice in your life. You've made it a sacrificial practice in your life. And I know it's not about a dollar amount. Some people give $5, some $10,000. It's what you can give, and that's what makes a difference, because you're being transformed and you believe in a mission, and you know the importance of, like, we don't exist without giving. And I don't say that to do any manipulation. That's just the truth. People say, well, how are you funded here? We're funded from you, the people. So thank you. It makes a huge difference here. Thank you for being a part of it. If you want to be a part of giving here, if you want to donate to Free, there's a few different ways to do it. You can download the app, Free Recovery Community. All of our content's on there, messages, guest storytellers. And there's a giving button there. You can give one time, or you can give weekly, monthly, however you want to do it. We're grateful for all of it. You can do the exact same thing on the website, freerecoverycommunity.com. And of course, there is the giving kiosk, one next to Bobby. Bobby, raise your hands in the air like you just don't care. And there's one just outside these doors for those of you who do like cash and check type people, old school people. Yeah. And there is the dip jar. It hangs out just outside these doors on that little black table. It's a little machine about this big. It's set at $20. You can't give more or less than $20. It's set at $20 because that seemed like a reasonable amount to set it to. You just take your credit card, dip it in, dip it out. It lights up. You get to feel good about your giving, and it makes a difference here. Thank you for being a part of it. Truly appreciate y'all. Shall we go out with a prayer? Yeah, I think we should. I would encourage you to just open up the hands if you're comfortable with that. Ain't no magic that happens in that. It's just a simple symbol of openness. Open to Spirit moving and breathing in your midst. Maybe you're open to a new way tonight. Maybe you're open to setting up some new boundaries in your life tonight. Yeah. Just take a big, deep breath. It's all just a gift. We're going to go out a little differently tonight. We're going to pray that Psalm 139 because it's such a beautiful prayer. And it's on your screen, and we'll pray it together. It goes like this. God, thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Amen, and grace and peace to you. See you next time.